share your gift. Yeah, your gift is a seed. You can easily be the change that we need. Keep your mind alert and your heart with peace. Be the change that we want to see. Yeah, go and share your gift. Yeah, your gift is a seed. You can easily be the change that we need. Keep your mind alert and fill your heart with peace. Be the change that we want to see. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Mentality Unchained. I'm your host, Dr. Kevin Thomas, your neighborhood therapist. You know what? I'm often asked about how do you deal with individuals that come into your practice with violence, that have experienced violence, that have family have experienced gun violence and even domestic violence. And I just simply say, I just treat them like people, right? I want to get to know them. I want to know why they feel the way they feel, what's going on in their life, things that they're thinking at the moment. And then also there's a spirit of retaliation always, because that's what we want to do as human beings. We want to make sure that we make the person that done the thing to feel what we're feeling currently. But today I want to talk a little bit about gun violence. I want to talk about resilience. I want to talk about just the totality of violence altogether. And so today I have the host of the We Are Migthty podcast, LaTanya Cross. Thank you for being here. She's also the executive director of the We Are Migthty Foundation. So we're going to talk a little bit about our foundation, also how we got to where we are today. I will say this, guys, before we get started, I appreciate all the subscriptions that you guys have been subscribing to, all the platforms Mentality Unchained is on. I really do appreciate it. We're growing. Our community is growing. So continue to push that subscribe button, share it, like it, and also tell your friends to go and do the same. So I appreciate that. So as we get into this, we want to talk a little bit about our guest here. She's the host again of We Are Migthty podcast. So LaTanya, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, I've been waiting on this for a long time because we actually get to talk about some things that I think is very important to our community. But first, let's tell the people who you are, what you do, and how we come to this place right here today.
Okay, so my name is LaTanya Cross. What I do, a whole lot. In the Rockford community, I'm known as half of #the crossover. Me and my husband, Ronnie, literally started as our wedding hashtag and just became how people know us. Oh, there go the crossover.
Yeah.
And it became a business name. It became just, you don't see one without the other usually. He probably at home a little nervous right now.
Because you're not there?
Because I'm not there or because he's not here.
Right, exactly.
Attached at the hip. But, I am a mother. I've always told people I was a mother first. And last year, tragically, my son Miles was shot and killed at a party in downtown Rockford. And his nickname was Mighty. And it actually came from, he was a little guy, he was short on the football field. And he used to just tear him up, take down anybody, tackle everybody. And first they called him Mighty Mouse, and then they realized his name was Miles. So it became Mighty Miles, and just as he got older, it was just always Mighty. Okay. So, We Are Migthty, the podcast is kind of chronicling my grief journey in dealing with my son's death, and the foundation I'm starting in his memory. But I'm realizing, and I've realized from many people who have dealt with gun violence and the grief, that there's not many support groups for us in that realm. And so I'm trying to make sure people who are going through what I'm going through or similar, or even domestic violence, which I've actually dealt with years ago as well.
Wow.
I'm a domestic violence survivor. There's a lot of layers to LaTanya. So just wanting to be there for our community to give them another outlet. Well, it'll never stack up to Mentality Unchained and what the good doctor's doing here.
We're trying to grow, and I'm in support of you because I know that you're trying to do things on a grander scale with a grander purpose, and I can appreciate that. I will say I am totally going to be sensitive to what has happened. Also, because the case is still opinion, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to make sure that I do my due diligence of being sensitive to that and also respectful to whatever's going on in the courts right now. But I really want to get into the nuts and bolts of, you said that you started your podcast out of the grieving process. Tell me about how that kind of manifested and how that came about.
Sure. So my first episode is actually titled "Grief Made Me Do It."
Wow.
It's difficult to try to tell someone how to navigate the grieving process because it's different for different people. My thing, I felt like I needed to talk about it, but I couldn't talk about it to everybody because everybody has their own opinion, or everybody wants to tell you what you should do or how you should be feeling. And well, it's been this many days, I literally spent 2 days sitting in one spot on my couch with my baby's picture above my head and just staring off into space. Didn't want nobody to talk to me. And, people would call and what do you need? That was the question I hated. What do you need? I don't know. All I know is my son is gone. So I wanted to be able to share my experience. It's kind of selfish, but uninterrupted, just to put it out there. But I knew I wasn't the only one who was dealing with the thing. The weekend that my son was killed, I think there was 3 or 4 young men that had gotten shot that weekend. Now, I will be honest, I was upset because not all of them passed away. And, I'm like, why my baby? Questions that we will never know the answer to. But in that moment, that's how you feel. Like, and I've mentioned how on my podcast, I've mentioned how, I'm praise and worship leader at my church and I'm always, God makes no mistakes. And now I'm like, Lord, are you sure?
Yeah.
Can we just turn back the time? Like for a very long time, I asked God, I know you can do anything but fail. So can you please just rewind it back to the day before?
Yeah. So
that I can stop him. I can change, how things happen. So in dealing with that and internalizing it, it was difficult for me to try to get other people to understand what I was going through. And so I just felt like I gotta have some kind of outlet to just put this out there. And I know somebody else can be helped by me putting it out there. So I decided to just start the podcast and really just sit down and talk.
That's what I'm hoping today is like that you continue to use this as a healing process to be able to speak through and talk through everything that's going on. Because at the end of the day, only way we begin to heal, I believe, truly believe, is that we are able to express. And if you can start to express yourself, it can be a pathway to healing. Not to say that's for everyone. We've said that already, but I want that to be this for you, because a lot of times people don't get a chance to talk about it.
Right.
Even if they wanted to talk about it, they feel silenced. And so you starting a podcast was very, I think, on time, because what happens is that podcasts now, we don't have a lot of restraints. So we can talk about what we want to talk about, how we want to talk about it, which I love that. And so to have this opportunity for you to do that, continue to do that, thank you for coming on. I already said that, obviously. So the gun violence, as you said, there were 3 other shootings that same day.
Or that same weekend.
Same weekend, right? So your mindset going from there to now when it comes to gun violence, how do you feel? Or what would you say?
My mindset, I don't know that my mindset on gun violence has really changed much, other than the fact that it has affected me personally now because it took someone that I loved. I have, I've worked in schools, so I've always been trying to talk to our young kids and letting them know, stay away from these things and steer clear and, watch for the signs and, be aware of your surroundings, those kind of things. I've always been cognizant of the, fact that it was out there. Yeah. It's just, it's hard. I hate to even say it, but I kind of was afraid something like this was going to happen before it happened. So that's probably why I can say my mindset on it hasn't really changed. I've been worried. for a while that something's going to happen to one of my babies. Because, you know, I told people all the time, I never turn my ringer off. I'm a mother of young black men.
Yeah.
Who knows what will happen? And my sons would literally be driving and the police get behind them. If they felt like they were getting pulled over, they would call me because I would actually go. I have gone to where my son was pulled over and been down the street, just making sure there's no issues. They get let go. I don't interfere,
Right.
but I make sure, just because the things that you see in the mainstream media, the things that you see on social media that so many people have become numb to, as a mother of young black men, you worry about those things.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's harder for me now because, you know, I did lose one of my sons, but I can't say my outlook on it has changed. I still think we need to do something about it. I still think they need to put the guns down. And if you're going to have one, of course, be responsible with it, you know. And I think it's about education that a lot of our young people definitely don't have.
Wow, that's deep. So you're saying, and this is what I heard you say, is that your fear for your sons, just because they were black males in this society, caused you to always feel something may happen to them. To the point, you took it upon yourself, if police got behind them and pulled over, they would immediately call you, and then you would turn around and go. Mothers don't do that.
This mother does.
Mothers don't do that. And I love the fact that you're vigilant like that, but I think there's a anxiety that goes with that too, right? Like, I have
Absolutely.
to always be on pins and needles. I don't know. And it's hard to let them grow up too, right?
Yeah. And it's not about like babying them. I've never been the babying, smothering type of mother.
Yeah.
You know, I've always, the way that I taught my kids was every action has a reaction, every choice has a consequence. Whatever that choice is and whatever that consequence may be falls on you. Whatever you choose to do, you may deal with those consequences. Now, if I'm being honest, my son was fighting.
Okay.
He was at a party, a fight broke out. Actually, he wasn't a part of the fight. I don't want to get too much into it, but there was a fight going on at this party, and the people who were fighting basically turned towards him. And of course, I don't know all details. Unfortunately, if I'm honest, I have videos of my son's last moments in my phone because people sent them to me.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know, of course I'm thinking, well, if you went home like I told you and not turned around and went to this party, you still be here. Now, of course, I can't truly say that because if God decided it was his time, it was his time.
True.
But that's where the whole choices you make, you've got to be careful because you can only control yourself.
Yeah.
You can't control what other people do. You know, people know my brother. He's a MMA fighter and one of the big names. He's a championship. He has a championship belt. And we all have been trained to fight. But everybody's not going to fight.
No.
Everybody's not going to take a loss. Everybody's not going to be like, all right, man, I guess, you know, you won. And not in this day and age.
No.
Not in this day and age. And so that's why I had anxiety. I know that there's everybody's not going to just walk away from something like that.
I remember growing up, I fought this kid probably a week and a half straight. It seemed like every day we were fighting. Every single day we were fighting. But this climate, this day, you cannot and you will not fight a person fairly because they're going to retaliate in a way that I would say is cowardice. Is, you know, my uncle used to often say, if you're going to fight, get in the ring, you know. And nowadays they don't do that.
No.
You know, the embarrassment comes behind losing a fist fight. The feeling of being incompetent or not confident in yourself if you're in a fight and you don't do well. You know, so all those things happen, and with that person feeling those deeper emotions, they have to do something like that. But what they end up doing is they're taking two lives at once.
Exactly.
And they're taking their lives by being locked up in the penitentiary, and then the life of the other. But
and affecting two families.
absolutely. You know, that's an even deeper issue because it continues to affect the family throughout when they're gone, when both of them are gone. And we don't think about that. And normally, I don't say normally, I would say often it's us, it's black men on black men. I recently worked with some young men throughout the summer. And one of the major things is I noticed that they didn't have a lot of great male role models. And so when they didn't have great role models, they made bad decisions, and so having these individuals in their lives that could affect them in a more positive way will help them deal with their emotions, And like you said, your son wasn't actually fighting, but just to be in an area where an individual, a young man, couldn't control his emotions. And so that's tragic. So right now, you started the podcast, but you and your husband, the crossover, you guys have also created entrepreneurship. You guys started the crossover, which is, I'll let you finish.
Hashtag the Crossover Motorsports, which is a mechanic shop here in Rockford. And, Ronnie's been working on cars 30 plus years. As long as I've known him, he's always been working on somebody's car. And it's been a passion of his. And, he was doing it at home, but the city started cracking down on us because he literally had too many customers and the neighbors were not happy. And so, we were able to find a shop to so that he can fulfill his dream. And, it's not just the working on cars, though. We do have, we've had a group of young people come through and he taught them basic things like changing brakes and changing their oil. And at one point we did a vacation Bible school at one of the churches because they did life skills. And so he taught the kids there about, basic car maintenance and upkeep. So it's not just about, him working on the cars, it's reaching people. And we have like 8 godchildren. Okay. And so, he not only wants to work on the cars, but, to be helpful to people. And one of the reasons we open the shop is there's a lot of mechanics can get a negative reputation, and he's not one of those people. He's honest. He tries to, honestly, the majority of his customers are women, which I had to adjust.
You feel some type of way. You feel some type of way, huh?
No, honestly,
I'm just picking.
I understand why, because he not only tells you what's wrong, he will bring you out to the car. Here's this is what's supposed to happen. And he explains to them so that this is what I'm charging you for. This is what we're doing. Ain't no extras, ain't no fluffs. I'm not adding anything. So that's the way that he does things. And I think that's why a lot of his customers are women, because some men be like, man, just fix it. I don't want to hear it. And it's just Ronnie's way of doing it that he's got to explain it all.
All of it, right?
So, yes, no, I don't.
So even though Ronnie has done this for 30 years, did the crossover start as an addition to what had happened to Miles, or it was already in the process?
It was already in the process. He was already, he had already been working on the cars, and it was something that we were already doing. Miles actually used to come to the shop. He got his car fixed at the shop. Yeah. So it was before that, but I think some of his focus has changed a little bit since the Miles thing, and wanting to try to give some young men who may not be college bound, who may not want to get a degree, may want to get into a trade, to give them another creative outlet and another way that they can make money, by doing something that's practical and something that can help them, in the long run.
So then that ties into the community then. Like, you guys are in the community, involved in the community. How important is doing the work in the community and also building on the foundation? It
has become more important to us doing things in the community since what happened to Miles, but we've always kind of been trying to be involved in things. People are starting to recognize us more, or they started to recognize us, in the past couple of years since we got married. We've been married 6 years, and they just started to see us everywhere, and it was really they're going to cross over. Usually,
Right.
I'm actually not in the right colors. It's usually lime green and purple everywhere.
Okay.
And people just knew us for that. Oh, there y'all go in y'all colors, And it's important to be a part of the community, to be able to speak to our community, because I can't not have anything to do with you and then come to you saying, hey, you need to do this way, or you need to try something different. So it's important to at least be out there. And I will be honest, after what happened to Miles, it was difficult for us to be in crowds and difficult for us to, be around a lot of people, because there's still anxiety and things. And it's, the situation with Miles happened on the rooftop of a building downtown. And, right now rooftops are the thing. And so it's, hey, come to my event at this venue. Oh, okay, let's go to this venue. And you get there, we're up on the rooftop. Like the very first one, I had an anxiety attack. I just, I couldn't do it. But we're now a year later, and I've gotten
A lot better.
I think, yeah, you saw me at the last rooftop
I did see you at the last
event
rooftop.
that I went to.
I didn't even put two and two together.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if you didn't notice, we kind of stayed
At
inside a little bit before we went. And it was where I couldn't really see that I was
does
on
those,
the rooftop.
Does those thoughts automatically come, or does it take a minute to be like, oh, I'm on the rooftop?
It depends, to be honest. It depends on the day. It depends. Different things trigger me at different times. And sometimes it's just weird, like, why did that even... There was a day I was driving and an ambulance drove by me with the lights flashing. I didn't see Miles in the ambulance. By the time I got to where he was, they had taken him.
Yeah.
So I didn't see him, but just to see the ambulance, and for whatever reason, the way I could see through this one into the back, full-on panic attack. So
are you picturing Miles in the ambulance at that time, or you just like, I can't imagine him being in there?
Yeah, I didn't picture him. I just saw an ambulance, flashing lights, could see the paramedic in the back, and I just lost it. So it's, it's hard to say this will trigger you, this won't trigger you, because there was one day where I was at home and just out of nowhere, nobody said anything to me. I wasn't watching TV. I wasn't doing anything. Out of nowhere, I just yelled out. I know he was calling for his mama. So I said, we weren't going to do this.
Yeah, you did. But I understand that.
But it's to not know how it was, and to hear, honestly, people telling stories that weren't true.
Yeah.
And I don't know how my son's last moments were. I don't know. I know he wasn't alone. His friends were with him, but still, his mama wasn't there. I have been that mother with my kids. They could come to me with anything. They could talk to me about anything. And, I that kind of backfired on some things, because my oldest tells me everything. But... they could come to me, and I wanted to have that relationship, because unfortunately my family wasn't like that.
Yeah.
We didn't have the open discussion, and I wanted my kids to be able to talk to me.
Yeah.
So of course I'm thinking, what was going through his mind? How was he, and that's not something that you can, because you will drive yourself crazy with those thoughts. But just that day, out of nowhere, I just said, I know he called for his mama. And so, it's just triggers are just that, triggers. I thought the 1 year of the anniversary of his death or whatever was going to be a hard day. It wasn't.
It's the days in between and after.
The day that was really hard for me, and I didn't even realize it was that day, I just woke up in a funk and the day was just going horrible, and I wanted to just cry out of nowhere. And I'm like, I don't get it. What is it? And then I wrote the date down and realized it was the anniversary of the day we buried him. That was the day that was just hard. And I just recently said something to a friend of mine who lost a loved one as well. I feel like it was that realizing that was the final goodbye.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the grief will have you all over the place. And we can watch TV, one movie may have gun violence and I'm fine. Another movie may have gun violence and it triggers me. Like, and it may not even be anything closely related to what happened to my son. It's just out of the blue. And I have to pull myself out of it because, you know, it's hard to be there. And my poor husband, he's trying to comfort me in the moment. And honestly, there's nothing you can say right now. Just let me deal with it. And then I don't want to feel like I'm being rude or being, you know, unappreciative of him trying to be there for me. It's just, it's hard to deal with.
I can't imagine, but I think from a husband, male perspective, we tend to internalize things different than women. And I can't imagine, though, you've carried someone for 9 months, you birthed them, you've taken them to preschool, kindergarten, all the way up, and I mean, that's just mom. And now mom has to deal with this. I can't imagine how that made you feel in the moment, now speaking about it, and probably in the future, because at the end of the day, you look strong. You now here, I'm gonna say this, you appear strong.
Appear.
But people really don't know, right? You don't go out and say, hey, look at me, I'm this. Oh, look at LaTanya, she looks so nice. She looks good. How do you deal with that?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm always told, oh, you make it look easy. You make it, I guess part of being brought up in the family that I was brought up in, you know, I'm the oldest and I'm a girl. My daddy wanted a boy.
Gotcha.
And so part of the reason Ronnie and I work out so well is I was working on cars with my daddy, riding motorcycles, four-wheelers, horses, all of that stuff. And so a lot of times in situations where you would normally hear people say, but you're a girl, my daddy would say, I don't care that you're a girl. You can do it probably better than they can. And so I've always had to be the strong one. I had, you know, my parents worked a lot. I had to raise my brothers at a young age. My brothers called me Mama Sis because, you know, I had to take on that role. So I've always had that outward strong appearance, and you just wouldn't know on the inside how it's crushing me, how, you know, and I try not to even talk about the situation with mine because then I feel like, okay, people think you want sympathy. And that's not, I don't want your sympathy, you know, or you're looking soft. And so I don't want to look soft. And I know. Like you said, mamas don't do that.
People just get it messed up because they think that you have to always have this toughness about you. But those things right there, because as parents, and I used to always hear my grandparents say this all the time, is that I don't want to outlive my kids. You know what I mean? And so I can't imagine dealing with something like that where you are outliving your kids and you have to actually face that daily,
especially now because we have court and all of that we're going through. And, you know, even in court, like there's been times, because my mom's always there with me, where she's broken down and I'm still, it's all right, Mom. You know, we're good. Now, when I get to the car, it's another story.
Okay.
Takes a minute for me to even start it up. You know, I don't know why, even like on my podcast, I'll talk about emotional things and I'll feel the tears come in, but I cannot let them fall for some reason. And it's not like I'm going, oh, let me, you know, it's just even in the conversation, I could feel myself choking up, but I just can't allow that side of me to be visual.
Really? So you don't feel that you can be outwardly vulnerable to your emotions. So if someone sees you now, us having this conversation, that's exactly what they're gonna say. It's like, man, she's so strong. Man, she's really been able to get it together. I mean, but they don't know that you're really fighting from actually doing that.
I will be honest with you. As soon as these cameras turn off, I will probably lose it.
Really?
Even in filming my podcast, I've gone through the whole episode and talked about everything and been strong. And as soon as my engineer's like, all right, that's a wrap, I'm collapsing. Like, I don't know why. Like, I'm not consciously like, okay, this is for this whole time. I'm not, you know, nope, I want to be, but I just can't.
Well, I'm going to say it. I want you to be your authentic self because this is a safe place. And so you be who you want to be. I don't want you to have to save that because I'm a therapist, of course. You know that.
I know.
You know that. But I always want to. So I'm a problem solver by default. By default. So, those are the things that I like to work through sometimes with people. And sometimes it's mentally draining for me too. But I just feel like these type of conversations need to be had more because there are a lot of mothers out there that are, I don't want to say putting on, but they're being strong because they feel that they have to.
And you don't.
No.
You don't have to.
Society puts a lot on us, don't they?
They absolutely do. They absolutely do.
Well, I tell you what. So back to your foundation though. So the foundation and the community, that's all tied in together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still putting the final touches on it, but I have some people who are helping me with getting it together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually on Rockford's newly created Violence Prevention Coordinating Council.
Mm-hmm.
The mayor appointed me.
After this happened with Miles?
After Miles.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's people who are it's a council that's basically trying to do the same thing, trying to help our community with dealing with the violent crimes and trying to reduce the violent crimes. So he felt like my voice needed to be heard. And I'm what they call a community representative.
Yeah.
Like everyone else are professionals in organizations, and they probably like, man, is she gonna shut up? Because I definitely let my voice be heard.
You're not silent in these meetings.
No, I'm not. And
what do you hope to accomplish being a part of this committee? My
personal, I just hope to bring more awareness and bring more, what's the word I want to use here? So there are organizations in the community that I did not know existed.
Okay.
And they talked about, well, when something like this happens, here's our protocol and here's what we do. And I literally said, well, where were you guys a year ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I heard nothing about you.
Yeah.
Nobody reached out to me.
Yeah.
Nobody called to see if I was okay or if I needed anything.
Right.
And, as the mother of a victim, honestly, the only phone call I got, and I'm just being honest, the only phone call I got 4 hours after my son died was some foundation wanting to know if I wanted to donate his eyes.
Woo!
And that's
okay.
Now that really pissed me off. I'm sorry.
No, no apologies.
But my baby just died. And I get that there's a time frame or whatever, but that's the call I get? So, yeah, and probably if I wasn't the person that I am, that call would have taken me over the edge. So, yeah, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So with being a part of this council, I don't want anybody else to go through that.
Yeah.
Not one mother needs to go through something like that. And I know that they, like I said, they're doing their job or whatever, but that's crazy. That's just ridiculous. So yeah, we gonna have to change some things. We're gonna have to change the way things are happening in these situations. So that's why I'm on this council. And that's why I make sure even when they make their plans, I will say, are you sure this makes sense? Think about it. Put yourself in their shoes. And I had to one time just put it out there like, okay, so let's think about this. I am a mother. My child was just killed and I'm going through this situation and this is how you want to approach me. Remember, I am that mother. So think about how that is going to affect someone like me. And that's just how I put it out there. So
Man,
I can give them the real experience.
You almost got me in tears over here because that's right there. I tell you what, I'm just going to pause a little bit and I want to say this. And my prayers for you as you are on this committee to bring more light to the resources that we have in the city that a lot of us don't know about. But I also want to make a plea to anybody that's watching. If you know of any resources, be it domestic violence, gun violence, any mental illness, any type of resources that we can use, drop it in the comment section, and then also hit us up at Mentality Unchained Facebook. Put some resources in there, and we'll shout them out on the episodes. Because at the end of the day, if we don't know, we can't. Like you said, where were they when this happened a year ago with you? Mm-hmm. And to get a call like that within 4 hours, my heart is just like, wow. I don't know how you sit here. I just don't know. I'm gonna be an audience member. I'm gonna be a fan for a minute. I don't know how you sit here and deal with the emotions that I can picture that's happening inside of you and be who you are. Hats off to you. I appreciate you doing this because you don't have to. You don't have to. I don't even know where to go with this one, Denise, because that was tough, man.
Unique situation for me, and even with me and my kids, because I'll just be honest, I've been married 3 times.
Okay.
And my first marriage was abusive.
Okay.
And my kids didn't know that. I sheltered them from that.
Okay.
They started to find out on the latter end because family members decided to, things that I would never have said to them,
right.
And that caused them, to put up a wall as well, because now it's, my mom went through this and I couldn't help her through it.
Yeah.
And, finding out some of the things that I went through made them, a little bit tougher. I had one of Miles' friends send me this song that he had recorded, like a freestyle. And in the song, he's talking about things that I went through in that domestic violence situation that I didn't even know he knew. And this, unfortunately, his friend sent to me after he passed away.
Wow.
So I'm just like, I didn't even know
that he knew
this.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the song, he says, "They won't stop me now." He says that's the theme song to my podcast now. Because
they won't stop
it's my mighty son, and they're not gonna stop us.
Yeah.
But to not know that he had all this in the back of his mind, and to see some things that happen in the other marriages, understanding now that's why he was acting that way, because he was afraid that I was going through it again. And I do remember there was one time that I had to tell him, I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
We're not there anymore. And he broke down. And Miles was not a crier. But then that was probably the point when I realized how what happened to me really affected my kids.
I think this, and that's very interesting, because I think this is just my thought process. I feel that we as parents, we underestimate our children's intelligence. I feel that what we do is we try to avoid actually the reality of what we're dealing with, because we'll say, oh, they don't know what's going on. I'm always careful, or we are making sure they see mommy's reaction. They see how mommy responds to when I do things. They see how she moves around the house, how when dad comes around, how she kind of shifts, how her spirits is different. And they put that stuff together. But we don't know to what depths that we're impacting our kids by either withholding it or staying in the situation.
I think parents of our generation, like us, we were that way. But the parents now, I don't think that that's the case anymore. Wow. Because when we were growing up, it was talk to the baby. Oh, look, dad, mama. These kids now are 3 years old formulating complete sentences.
Yes.
Because their parents are realizing, oh, they're just emulating what we're doing.
Right.
So we just, talk to them in that way, and they're doing the same thing. So I do agree with that was happening in our generation.
Yeah.
I'm hoping with the level of intelligence that this current generation of parents has, and how they are teaching their kids more at home, and they're learning to read a lot earlier.
Yeah.
And learning,
Yeah.
you know, I taught my kids some little things, but if I had known back then
Man.
what their capabilities actually were, it would be a completely different story.
I was just telling my wife this today. I said, I don't think that the young people of today understand when we say, if we would have had the resources that you have today, things would be different. I don't know if they understand just that phrase right there, because they have so much at their disposal and they don't even realize it.
The problem is deciphering the positive and the negative.
Okay.
There's so much at their disposal, so much good, but there's so much negative. Like I had a conversation earlier this week with my mom, and I told her, I said, you can go on any of these social media video platforms and you can find a video to support whatever theory you have.
That is true.
You can support whatever theory you have, positive, negative, and you can push your argument because you feel that strongly.
That's true.
And could be just as wrong.
Yep.
Just because there's somebody who made a video about it.
Yep.
And if it's not there, it's coming. So that, they definitely have more resources. Like I saw a post the other day and I shared it and it said, I wish social media would just shut down for a year, crash for a year, so people could snap back to reality.
That right there, I have never thought about that. But if that happened, it would almost be like a civil war. Because they do not and will not function in that type of situation.
And then people were commenting like, well, all you got to do is take a break. The type of person who would take a break from social media is not the person who needs that break.
That's right. That's right.
So if it were to really, you remember that day that, what was it, Facebook and Instagram and everything
shut down,
and they did not know what to do.
No.
And when it came back, oh my God, did everybody else have that happen? Like people were going crazy. We are letting these things control our lives, control everything that we do. Life is not a movie.
I agree.
Because you're not going to be able to get up and dust off that blood stain from that fake gunshot and then move on with your life.
No.
Some people don't realize the finality and totality of the things that they are doing. I say, I know, I'm sorry.
No, you go, no.
And I say, like, people were like, well, do you know the person who did it? Do you know the family? I don't care. Because I'm not one who's holding something against this family because this, boy, who's the same age as my son, made a mistake. Ain't no, we beefing. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah.
What can I do to move forward?
Yeah.
I can't waste time on trying to retaliate, as you were saying. Retaliation, I ain't gonna say it didn't enter my mind.
Oh, you're human. You're
I ain't
human.
gonna say it didn't enter my mind. But when it did, I still thought about, okay, but what's that gonna do? That's gonna hurt another family.
Yes.
That's gonna affect another mother. I don't want another mother, no matter who she is, to go through what I'm going through. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
So we have to understand, and a lot of it, we're not taking that split second to think, if I do this, what's really gonna come of it? Now, some of them just don't care, he going with it. I have a hard time believing that you're really just disconnected.
Let me tell you something, man. I've been in the military before. I've shot guns, and I've been somewhat shot at. There's nothing more death-defying than taking another person's life. You cannot and you will not be in your right state of mind when you pull the trigger to take another person's life. It takes a person to go past a certain threshold for them to be able to fully engage with that. And after the fact that you do that, you will never be the same.
Ever.
Because to take another human being's life, it takes everything and some to go beyond that. And when you do that, then that person has to be rehabilitated all the way through. And to be quite honest, if you don't have any programming and any healthy outlets for these persons that going into prison, they won't be rehabilitated. They'll come back out with the same mentality.
That's it.
And so we got to do better all around. You and I can have this conversation forever, man. Look, let me tell you something. I am so thankful to be doing this because you have really, like, you stood in this lane and you commanded it. And I appreciate what you did. But before we go, I want you to just take about 2 minutes and just talk to the people, whatever you want to say. And then I want you to just plug your podcast and any social handle they can find you on.
Whew.
Yeah,
that's why you ain't prepared me.
I like organic.
I do too, honestly. The first thing I just want to say is love on your family. You never know when that last day will be. If I'm being cliche, I guess. It's hard to prepare. There's no preparation. There's no, if it happens, I'm ready for it. There's none of that because you don't want it to happen. And if you've dealt with it, if you're dealing with it, my heart goes out to you. I pray for your strength because this road ain't easy. It's not for the weak. So, that's part of the reason that I have to be strong. But the thing that I had to remember was you still have your family. Mm-hmm. You still have people who count on you, who need you. I'm not saying put your own feelings to the side, but draw strength from that. There are people who still love you, who are still here. And especially if that family member loved you, don't let go of that. Mm-hmm. That didn't go away. That didn't stop. Just as much as you can, keep those memories alive. Keep yourself strong as much as you can. Go to a therapist.
Don't do that to me.
No, but find someone to talk to because holding that in, that can be detrimental as well. It'll eat away at you. And what will happen is there will be a day out of nowhere where you don't know why and you just lash out at everybody. And that's not fair. Wow. My podcast is We Are Migthty. It is on all podcast platforms. Audio, you can watch visually on Spotify and YouTube. Right now, it's every other Friday that it releases because I ain't strong enough to do it every week yet. But the We Are Migthty Foundation, keep your eye out. You're going to hear about us. You're going to see more coming from us. At #TheCrossover Motorsports, we're bringing back our turkey giveaway this year, and it's going to be a Mighty Meal giveaway. So keep an eye out for that on social media. Thank you, Kevin, so much for having me.
LaTanya Cross, We Are Migthty Podcast and Foundation, Crossover Motorsports. Thank you for coming out. You didn't have to. I appreciate it. You did my heart some good. I enjoyed this. I will say, to you is to continue to be strong in your truth, stand in your truth. Be sure to love on yourself. I know that, people have many expectations of you. And so my expectations of you are to put yourself first and then everyone else later. Because if you don't take care of yourself, it's really hard to take care of someone else effectively. I would say that. And so I want you to really put yourself first. And it's not selfish, it's self-care. So learn how to do that and continue to do that. And, man, look, I've been doing this for over 3 years now. And it seems that when I get these type of interviews, I'm just like over the moon satisfied and I'm over the moon appreciative because we don't have to get this type of material. It doesn't have to be this substance. It doesn't have to be this authentic and transparent, but it is. And I appreciate what you brought to this episode. And, I want everyone to make sure you guys subscribe, Mentality Unchained on all platforms. Also, make sure you leave comments. Please leave comments. I love to answer them. Danae make sure I answer him. He always tells me, go, bro, somebody don't said something. So go check it out. And so I'll make sure I do that. So please put your comments in the comment section. And let's just have a conversation. If you're not here to physically do a podcast with me, let's at least comment back and forth with some productive commentary. I appreciate that. Okay. And then also, like I always say, that we all have the ability to change our circumstances. Only if we focus on what we can focus on. And at the end of the day, you are the controller of yourselves, and make sure that you're being productive and find some peace. Thank you once again. I'm Dr. Kevin Thomas, your neighborhood therapist, and we're out.